Chai Center, and welcome to the Chai Academy. And welcome, welcome back. I'm not sure if we are recording. Welcome back. So the Chai Academy was born out of necessity because of COVID, and we have been doing this for quite some time, and with many different individual classes and courses, etc. And we are in the middle of a course called the Holocaust. Yesterday, we spoke about Judenrats and Capos, and we discussed Anne Frank, and we discussed Joseph Mengele. Today, and which has all been, it's all sad and tragic tales. Today, we're going to talk about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which is true. It's also a tragic tale, um, for sure. However, there is some light in a very dark place. So let's begin. If you have questions, by the way, rabbi at thechaicenter.com, and you can ask me a question, or you can ask a question here, Facebook, as we go about it. So the Warsaw Ghetto. First of all, the Warsaw Ghetto was huge. The Warsaw Ghetto had, at its peak, and I'm talking about the ghetto. I'm not talking about the city of Warsaw. The Warsaw Ghetto at its peak had 500,000 Jews, 500,000 Jews. The Warsaw Ghetto is best known for the largest Jewish uprising against the Nazis. And here's an interesting tidbit, an interesting fact, is it took the Nazis longer to beat these Jews back, beat back the revolt, than it did to conquer the entire country of Poland. So yeah, it had 500,000 people, which is 500,000 Jews, which is 30% of those that lived in Warsaw. So the Jews that lived in Warsaw were 30% of the population. But the ghetto was only 2.4% of space. So it was a very small space. I don't know how many hectares, or I don't know, but it was a small space, and you had 500,000 Jews. Now, when the Nazis came into the ghetto, for the first 18 months, pretty much 20% of the 500,000 died because of starvation. There just wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough food to go around. In general, the Nazis figured out that in order for a person to survive on minimal food, is you need to have an intake of 184 calories. If you have 184 calories, you will be able to survive for a long time. If you have less, your body will get weaker and weaker and weaker until you die. 184 calories, which we know 184 calories is 1/14 of what is recommended that we have. So 20% died of starvation, which is got to be one of the worst ways to go. And the others, and we're talking about 400,000 were deported within the 18 months, deported or shot. So now you had about 60,000 Jews living in the ghetto. And so by winter of 1943, you had 60,000 people living in the ghetto. By the way, Warsaw Ghetto, if I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you've seen it because it's a famous story, is that there was this head of the orphanage, Janusz Korzak, and it was an orphanage of 200 Jewish kids, and he was offered, okay, Janusz, you could leave. I don't think Janusz was Jewish. You could leave, just this has nothing to do with you. And Janice says, I'm not leaving. I refuse to leave, abandon these orphan kids. Isn't it hard enough? What I'm surprised at is that there were only 200 kids in an orphanage. And he met with his staff. Janice met with his staff, and he set the tone. He said, while we all know what's the various principles, etc., we all know what's going on here. He says, and he says, I'm asking you, do not abandon these children. Do not abandon these children. So a fateful day came, and this is the famous picture. Janice, he's the first in line to be taken to the concentration camps on the bus or whatever it were, however they took, and he was holding one kid in each hand. And so yeah, one kid in each hand, and that's how Janice. I am not getting comments, by the way. I'm not sure why. Oh, now I am. So he he did that, and not one staff member left. Every staff member, essentially, every staff member also was deported with the kids. They were like, they walked four in a line, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so it happened. It happened one Pesach night, Passover night, the first Seder night. The first Seder night is where the Nazis, in their infinite wisdom, in the Nazis in their cruelty, what the Nazis did was they always tried to turn a joyous holiday into misery. Turn joy into misery. We as Jews, we want to turn misery into joy. And we go to therapists to do that. They plan this on the first Seder night. Just as I told you yesterday, on Yom Kippur, when they knew that Jews wouldn't eat, is they gave extra food, but you had to eat it. You couldn't hoard it. So there was a revolt, and essentially there was no hope of victory, none whatsoever. And this is what's incredible: no hope of victory, and there was no hope of survival. None, zero. And in addition, they did not get help from the Polish underground. So they reached out, because they were planning this. The Jews, they were planning this, and they reached out to the Polish underground, the partisans, who were in the forest, etc. And the Polish were such anti-Semitic that rather the Jews die. And by the way, in Poland, you're not allowed to say this. They passed a law. You're not allowed to beat up the Poles as far as the Holocaust is concerned. So, let's say it again. The Polish was so nasty, and this is partisans. It was a common cause. Beat the Nazis. So they put out a call for weapons. Now the partisans, they said they had 6,000 light machine guns and 3,000 heavy machine guns and 5,800 pistols, etc. What they did was they gave the Jews 70 pistols and 2 machine guns, light machine guns, or one light, one heavy, and then so the Jews, with that, the 70 pistols and with Molotov cocktails, there was a revolt. So that night, the Germans were caught by surprise because the Jews fought back. The Germans retreated. By the way, just another tidbit of information: the Polish in September of 1943, the Polish partisan leader, his name was Boris, I don't remember his last name, but he put out a call. This is a partisan that Jews. He wants the Polish partisan members to kill the Jewish partisans. In other words, kill them, kill your fellow partisans, kill the Jewish ones, because he accused them of being, very, very cliquey and they gathered together like a band, and a band of brothers, and he didn't like it. So it's just insane. Anyway, they gave him the 70 pistols. and the Nazis were caught by surprise. And so this is it took him 6 weeks. Took him 6 weeks, and and by the way, the other thing the Nazis did, which is interesting, is they invaded the ghetto on Pesach night. They also invaded it. He was General Stroop. 3 a.m. He figured that is the quietest time where he'll catch the Jews unawares. So they came in with their tanks and their tanks and their convoys, etc., etc. So this was in 1943. This is in April 1943, the Pesach night, and they were met with tremendous resistance. So over the next few days, so the Germans left. The Germans retreated. Over the next few days, the Germans regathered. And they went systematically. They went building by building. They blew up one building, burnt it to the ground, and then they went into the next building. They threw grenades. Now, what the Jews had done in preparation for this revolt, the Warsaw Ghetto Jews, these heroes, they had built underground bunkers so they can run from one house to the other house, and shoot from this window and that window, etc., etc. Molotov cocktail from this window. But it also ended up to be their undoing, because when the Germans threw the grenades, these bunkers became an inferno. It became like a burning tunnel, and it forced the Jews out of these tunnels, out of these bunkers, and eyewitnesses say that so they had to get out because they needed air. They didn't want to get burned to death. So witnesses say is that even though they were injured or burnt, they had made a pact that if you're gonna die, at least take a Nazi with you. So as they came out, bruised and bloodied, they shot until they were killed. So it took 27 days. Right. So on May 16th, General Troop, may his bones rot, may his name be obliterated, may he never see heaven. General Troop he announced that the Warsaw Ghetto is liquidated, and it's what we call a glorious failure. It's what we call and by the way, it wasn't. The Nazis in general, their MO was they had censorship of the press, but this was heard world over. The word got out. The head of the resistance, his name was Mordechai Analowicz, and he was the head of the resistance. And during the first days of the resistance of this revolt, he sent out, basically smuggled out. He got smuggled out a letter. And in the letter, it was what was happening, what they're doing, and listen to what the man wrote. This is the man that was going to die any day. He was going to die any day. And he said, I have lived my life stream. I have lived to see greatness. Who writes that? Who writes that when you're on the way out? Just an amazing thing. Now, ghettos, and by the way, how many there were? They say that 7,000. Some people say 17,000. So I wonder if that's just a typo somewhere. Between 7 and 17,000 Jews were killed in this uprising, and over 50,000 were deported and taken to Treblinka. That was where the main place from the Warsaw Ghetto, taken to Treblinka. And as we said before, by the way, that the Poles have a lot to answer for over this whole thing. So many more Nazis could have been killed. It could have slowed down the revolt, etc. Now, what was the purpose of a ghetto? The purpose of a ghetto is actually a terrible thing. And the ghetto is not a German invention. Ghetto came from many years, and you can blame you can blame the Catholic Church for the concept of a ghetto. The ghetto was that they said, okay, these people have diseases. These people are unsanitary, or these people, it will have a deleterious effect on our health, some way, shape, or form, and therefore let's seclude them. Let's put them in an area, build a wall, and they will be behind the wall. We'll be the other side of the wall, and we'll just live separate lives, and they will not contaminate us. If you Google pictures of the Warsaw Ghetto, so it was 2.4% of Warsaw, but the thing was, it was big. I mean, they had a train system, they had a bus system. I'm not familiar with the Netflix movie The Barrier, but maybe I'll put that on my bucket list to watch. But the Warsaw Ghetto was a well-oiled machine. You've seen pictures of people dead on the streets. That's because of hunger. That's because of hunger, and once again, as we said yesterday, you had the Judenrat. They helped the Germans. They collaborated, or colluded, or they cooperated, whatever the correct word is, to bring living Jews to the Germans to expedite this. So the Warsaw Ghetto is a little kernel of light, a little a light in the darkness. It's like you strike a match, where in the daytime the match has no impact or effect, but at nighttime when you strike a match, it really helps. So this is this idea. It was really dark, and they struck a little match, and they gave hope. They gave hope, because you lose hope, you lose everything. So even though it's true they had no hope, they were not going to survive it, but at least it gave hope, and it gave pride. Right? Mordechai, the head of the revolt, was clearly very proud to have done what he did. Any questions? You can. I will answer it even after the class. To see further additional classes and courses, if you want to catch up, you may go to the chaicenter.com/academy. Be well, and God bless.